Okay, it is 5:30. We'll call our meeting to order. This is the July 22nd meeting of the Lake Dallas Independent School District Board of Trustees. We have all members present and therefore have a quorum established. If you would, please join me now in a moment of silence. Thank you. We'll now be led by Carla Landrum on our pledges of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you very much for that. The open session of the meeting will adjourn. The Board of Trustees will reconvene in executive session pursuant to one or more of the sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. The Board of Trustees will reconvene in open session to take any final action, decision, or vote on a matter deliberated in executive session, and it is 5:31. It is 6:29, and we are back in open session. And our next item is public comment. And I'm guessing we have nobody signed up for public comment. All right. We'll move on to our next item, which are information items. The first of which is Lake Dallas ISD Strategic Plan Priority 3. Hello, Dr. O'Sullivan.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, President Stacy and Dr. Brown and members of our school board. Tonight, we are going to talk and present our priority 3 of our strategic plan, understanding that the Lake Dallas ISD strategic plan process supports priorities, focuses our energy and resources, and ensures work towards common goals. Effective strategic planning articulates not only where the district is going and the actions needed to move us forward, but also to know if we're being successful. So you should have a copy of this that's actually readable in front of you. It's quite small. But this is just a glimpse of this priority 3 within the whole strategic plan itself. The actions, measures, and expected outcomes of the strategic plan, we're so proud that these were developed through feedback and the collaborative efforts of campus staff, teachers, parents, students, administrators, the community, and the district team members. Priority 1, student success. Priority 2, the faculty staff engagement. Those have already been updated and shared with you. Tonight, our focus is priority 3, highlighting the important role that parents, families, and the community play in the success of Lake Dallas ISD. This priority focuses on engagement and communication with the parents, families, and the community. Our Lake Dallas ISD community is vital to the culture and success of our students, campuses, and district. So taking a look at 3.1, which is focused on communication with parents, families, and the community, we have identified action steps to improve and increase in these vital ways. Those include to provide transparency and timeliness in our communication. We know communication is key to success. Another action step is to increase the online presence of the district through newsletters, social media, and district communication platforms. So everyone in the community and the district is seeing and hearing all of the things that are going on in Lake Dallas. And then also to promote student and staff news, especially those celebrations, those information, those need to know, those upcoming events. So how are we going to measure and monitor those? Those are part of the strategic plan process. That includes providing customer service training to our campus staff and ensuring that we are able to monitor who is trained and what knowledge they are receiving. Also through parent and community surveys, using the district communication platforms such as Parent Square, POSSIP, to make sure we are engaging our parents and community. In addition, we're able to not just monitor that, but also be able to access who is viewing the district pages, the website, the social media posts, our newsletters. So being able to track and monitor that progress. And then also the ones of the newsletter. And so this year, campuses in the district will be using Parent Square as a communication tool in addition to our social media platforms. So some expected outcomes of those action steps and monitoring process. For 24-25, we've set a goal of 85% parent satisfaction. As shown through the surveys, we are looking to increase interactions through social media and our newsletters and posts and engagement throughout the social media process. We're also looking for at least 500 responses on the POSSIP surveys each month, with measurable increases year over year for 25 and 26. 3.2 focuses on the engagement piece. So we were communication and now it moves to the engagement piece. So action steps to improve and increase parent and family community support engagement include increasing PTA participation. We know that is ground level on the campuses, having the parent-teacher association be very impactful in increasing that membership. Also, increasing committee participation. We have so many committees that are available and opportunities that are at district through the District Education Improvement Committee, the Campus Improvement Committees, PTA, student organizations. So there are multiple ways for stakeholders, parents, community members, staff to join and be involved. And so we want to make sure we're communicating that and that we are measuring that participation. And then also the community involvement. How are we engaging with our community? What action steps are we taking to engage with our community? We're going to measure those pieces through being able to see how many sign up for PTA, but also where are we advertising this? Are we at district events? Are we at campus events with tables, with flyers, with information? Is it on our social media sites about joining PTA and the benefits of that? And recognizing our parents and our volunteers who are on those, who are part of those organizations, to make sure the community sees how highly valued they are. We're thinking athletic events, theater events, fine arts events. There are plenty of ways to track that and monitor how much engagement we have with the community, asking them to be a part of that. And then also tracking the total number of events and partnerships with the community, such as through the Rotary, the Chamber, food drives. Those are important community and district building events. Expected outcomes to those efforts include increased parent, family, and staff PTA memberships. We are looking to increase staff membership to at least 75% of Lake Dallas staff joining the PTA. We all benefit from their volunteer and their what they give back to schools and service. We're going to be tracking event attendance, community partnership, and the social media engagement piece. And in addition, not just the memberships and the participation, but also that active involvement in the event. How many people do we have showing up? It's great to have the memberships and the registration and all those pieces, but we also want to see the folks there at the events and on the committees and having a voice in what we do. So those are the two parts of priority 3 for the engagement and the communication. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions or comments from the board? No, ma'am. We appreciate it.
All
Thank
right,
you very
thank
much. Our next information item is student fees, FP legal and local. Mr. Modica, how you doing?
Good evening. Good evening, Dr. Brown, board. Yes, this is actually a discussion we started last month with you guys in June, pertaining to student fees. So based on your questions, the insight that you had, we want to bring you a little more information, but also want to let you know the work is not done. I am going to, on my last slide, present next steps and just what we're doing internally, as well as the partnership with the business office, and just to comparison to other districts to give you more information before we ask you to consider and even approve student fees. So this first slide is actually just a review of FP, which basically states the board can approve certain payments from students, including membership dues such as for athletics or extracurriculars. Of course, personal athletic and fine arts equipment, and even apparel. And we'll talk about on the next couple slides what that looks like for us here at Lake Dallas. And of course, we can also collect fees as it pertains to products for purchasing for students. Yearbooks, class rings. Another good example of this would be graduation invitations, where truly the school just serves as that transaction piece. We collect the funds, we purchase the product for the student, and we hand it back to the student. Because many times purchasing through the school with that bulk of an order, the students get a discount. So currently, the fees that we collect as a district mostly are membership dues to participate in sports, fine arts, or extracurriculars or student programming. So you can see the most popular ones there. The various clubs and organizations, think of Spanish Club, FFA, right? These very specific student groups. And at that level, when you get down there, that's those are still sponsor and principal approved as far as any transactions or fees collected in that. And most of those are going to be like student t-shirts for Spanish Club or something like that. Fundraisers, because of course every student organization and program wants to fundraise to supplement their budget to do what's best for kids. So those are also, according to local policy 2, sponsor and campus principal approved for any fundraiser conducted on campus. And then there are miscellaneous fees collected. We'll go into detail on some of these too. For summer school, staffing summer school, college entrance exams, so that would be collecting funds for the ACT, SAT, TSI. Any damaged or lost items as it pertains to technology or textbooks, seat time, and we'll go into each one of these. Some guidelines or best practices along collecting these fees. Any fee collected is truly, as far as athletics fees specifically, is truly spent on the students. So mostly the purchasing of meals for traveling, or even when we're hosting games and feeding the kiddos. Of course, their practice gears like shooting shirts, baseball caps, sweats, and then their end-of-year banquets. Any of those fees collected goes back to the kids in that way. Any personal items, kind of we talked about earlier, or apparel, is obviously the property of the student. So a great example is a baseball hat. If we're collecting your specific size head shape and it's your hat, you get it back. Or like I said, the shooting shirts for basketball or whatever it may be. Shirts and shimmels for football, those are property of the kiddos because they purchased it with their funds. And then finally, that last bullet, at any point if the district can verify or have reliable proof that a student or family is unable to pay a fee, we of course waive that. That's actually an FP local. Really at no point as a child doesn't participate in an extracurricular due to student fees. We don't let that stand in the way. So every child participates regardless. We make sure to push that through. So as far as those miscellaneous, those other fees that we collect, this is kind of the ongoing work, but you can see I tried to, at least what we've done in the last month, the information we gathered. So that first item is the actual item that we're collecting the fee on. That middle item would be what we collect at LDISD. And then this far item, we've tried to look around at comparable districts and see what they're doing with their student fees and what they collect. So those first two are kind of lumped together. They're technology items, so you can see a replacement of a charging cord is $35. If it's a replacement case for the Chromebook, it's $25. And then you can see the certain offenses there. $75 for the first and second of each occurrence, and then the third would just be whatever the cost is to repair or replace that item is passed on to the student. To compare, what we've seen on average, a lot of the districts around us just do a flat fee for technology, and they call it an insurance fee. So every student, regardless if there's a lost or damaged item, pays $30 up front, almost like a premium, if you will, for insurance. And I will say that a couple of the larger districts around us, they collect that insurance fee up front, and then they still, if there's a claim on a repair or lost item, they still pass that on to the student. So just to give you a comparison. Parking, we've had this success in the past. We collect $30 for each student for the year. This was kind of a wide gamut looking around. We saw 0, 10 to 25, or 30, all depending. A lot of them do a staggered rate, if you will, depending on when you purchase it, or maybe if it's one semester versus two, whereas we do a flat of 30. Seat time, kind of the same story here. We do 10 to 25, depending on the amount of hours that a student owes, whereas everybody around us, most did 25 to 50. Most were starting at a minimum of 25, but again, depending on the hours you owed, you could owe up to 50, or some charge no at all. And just a reminder that seat time is the accrual of, now that student is truant. They've missed more than that 90%, and it's just a burden in place to try to get them back in the door, really because we know that if kids are here, we can serve them better. So it's just a deterrent, if you will, trying to get them in the door and stay with us. And we are implementing through those CIPs more engaging actions to make sure students are here and want to be with us each day. Summer school, you can see the comparisons there too. We charge currently $100 for half a credit, $150 for a full credit, and then $150 for accelerated courses. And comparably around us, it was kind of a wide gamut, but most were anywhere from 50 to 100, most settling around 100 per credit. So if you're a student taking 3 courses over the summer, you would pay up to $100 for each of those. And then finally, the college entrance exam, those are really just passed on at cost. So if it's $35 for SAT, that's what we charge a student. Same with TSI, ACT. Those are just passed on at cost for each individual exam. Extracurriculars or membership dues or booster clubs, these are the fees that we currently collect. This is where a lot of the work is still going to be ongoing because these aren't as accessible and easy to find when it comes to clubs and sports. So I'm going to solicit some help from neighboring districts, maybe even our coaches and athletic departments to kind of figure out exactly what other schools collect and compare it to ours. Again, so we can bring that back to you, be better informed before considering and approving student fees. But we did go into length with these in the June meeting. But again, that's where that ongoing work is found. I want to find out what other districts are doing. Comparably, I guess one that we found for sure, they're charging a $100 fee flat rate for every athletic student. So if I participate in golf, I pay $100. If I pay basketball, football, I pay $100. The maximum out of pocket for every family is $200. So even if I have 3 kids participating in 3 sports, the most I would pay is $200. But they do a flat fee of $100 for any kid in athletic sports. Something else I forgot to mention on this last slide, we've seen another comparable district to us. To be enrolled in the school, they charge you $20. And again, I think it goes back to that insurance fee. I think you'd have to dig in and find out exactly what it's for, but they're charging every student $20. And I think it comes down to a technology insurance fee, but just to be enrolled. And of course, there's waivers in place for them too, but just comparable, it's the same here. Some of the districts around us, they charge a flat $100 per sport. But again, that's ongoing work. I'd like to give you more information when we come back in August as to give you an insight into what other districts look like compared to ours, which is that last slide here. This is the next step. So working with the business office as well as trying to get insight from other districts, just to exactly what they do with theirs. At the same time, looking at our internal processes to make sure we're collecting and allocating as we said we were. And the hope is to bring that back to you in August for consideration and approval. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions on student fees.
Thanks, sir. Any questions or comments? That'll do that. We'll move on to our next one, which is the 24-25 Student Handbook and Student Code of Conduct. Back to you.
Me again. So yes, every year we bring you guys the summary changes or the updates to our handbooks. Just a reminder, the student handbook is a living document. It really serves as best practices and guidelines for our staff as they interact and encounter students. The code of conduct is actually an approved item, and so we'll discuss those updates as well, but that'll actually be in consent for you to consider and approve tonight. So, changes to the student handbook. There really aren't too many. I guess the biggest change is we now have one student handbook. Over the past few years, we've done a separate one for elementary, one for secondary. It was a little redundant, and honestly, if you're a parent that has a secondary and elementary student, it could be confusing as to which one pertains to you at the time. So we've consolidated those, but it's very specific, right? If you're looking at whatever it may be, I'm trying to get an example, but if I'm looking here for grading policy, this is how it pertains to my elementary student, and here's the secondary section. Or dress code. It's very obvious this is for elementary and this is for secondary, but it's all lined out in one document. Again, really to put an easement on our parents as far as communication and being more transparent. Probably the most notable change in the handbook is going to be reflecting attendance, but truly it's a reflection getting us back to what we report back to the state. So as a district, we follow the Student Attendance Accounting Handbook, or the SAW for short, and so to reflect our practices and what we report back to the state as far as daily attendance, excused versus unexcused, parent notes will be marked as unexcused. Now, excused absences have not changed. So legal and local, those are in place, meaning religious holidays, funerals, military deployments for immediate family, things like that, or even the local policies of college visits. If I'm going to DMV to get my license, of course, medical absences, those are all still excused. This is truly a reflection for parents so that it is more transparent, because it gets, it's not as clear, especially when there's truancy matters in place where a parent says, well, I have these that are marked verified or excused. But it really, when we report to the state does not, they see excuse for these items and not for these. Doesn't matter what the parents send in as far as an excuse. But again, those legal and local haven't changed. So the ones that have always been excused are still excused. This is just a practice moving forward, really to make it more transparent for our parents. That's just for an example. If I'm a parent and I send a note saying little Johnny had a stomach ache and not come to school, the state says that's unexcused. So now our Skyward system will reflect that back to the parent. So really it'll reflect what we report to the state, so that way everybody's on the same page moving forward. Another slight change, but we really have to have this embedded in the handbook because it's required by the state. Our official attendance taking time every day for each of the 5 campuses will be 9:30. And again, because we put that in our report to the state, that has to be in the handbook. And so in the past, we had different attendance taking time for each campus. Now we've just said 9:30 for all 5, makes it clean and easy. And this last bullet, that actually came out of the last legislative session. If a student tested in the top 40% on their mathematics STAR exam, the state said they are automatically enrolled in the next honors course. This clause in our student handbook just gives that parent the ability to opt out. Let's say they don't believe that's best for their kiddo, they can opt out of that honors math course as opposed to being automatically enrolled. But that was a legislative update, so we just put this in here to give parents that option if they choose that's not best for their kiddo. Before I move to student code of conduct, any questions on the handbook? Okay. Student code of conduct, this will also be easy because there are no changes. Similar to the faculty handbook and model that we get from TASB, student code of conduct is every other year as well. So this is based on the legislative update and the TASB update, so there really are no changes for the 24-25 school year, if that helps for your consideration and approval. I did want to have her bring up just the recent changes that came out last year, just because this is the most apparent and the ones that I guess the most frequently asked about just because they are the most recent. So again, just to reflect back on some of those changes. House Bill 114, if a student is in possession on campus or within 300 feet of campus with an e-cig or a vape, it is now a mandatory DAP. And 2 years ago, that would have been discretionary. So the school could have decided what happens. Moving forward since 114, it's an automatic placement of DAP. House Bill 3928 gave us really 2 requirements as far as a DAP placement. One saying that there would be a transition meeting on the beginning and the conclusion of that student's placement. And then finally, when we meet to actually go through the paperwork with those parents, we have to let the parent know of their right to request a full SPED evaluation or special education evaluation for their student. No matter the reason for the placement, we have to disclose that to the parent that that's their right. We've incorporated that into our paperwork with the DAP. One, because the parent gets a copy, so they're aware of their right, but also the administration, as they're going through the paperwork, they're sure to notate this for the parent of that right. And same with the transition meetings. We have those in place before and in, and that's really for the best for the kiddo, right? So that we're fully supporting whatever needs they have academically and mentally, as far as counseling and support like that, going into their placement, throughout their placement, and even when they transition back to the campus full time. So those were welcome changes. And many of those, a couple of those we actually had in place even before House Bill 3928. And then finally, the last one, this was actually a warning last year, but moving forward, this will be something that our PEMS has to rectify, or we have to justify with an explanation if we go above the 3 days. But any single infraction, discipline infraction by a student, the maximum instructional days you can give for ISS or OSS is 3 days. It's pretty rare that this came across more than 3, but it did happen and it was in our matrix. But now with this, now that it's not a warning, it is reflected in our practices and our discipline matrix and of course our code of conduct. That was a lot, but any questions on code of conduct? Like I said, there really were no changes for the 24-25 school year.
Any questions or comments?
I'm just curious with the new, the e-cig, DAEP placement. Did we see a big influx of those placements this year, or did this seem to help?
No, it was about the same. Actually, at the beginning of the year, first semester, we were in the reports, and it looked optimistic, as in we had a little less, probably percentage less than we had in the previous year, but then it kind of washed out in the end of the year. To give you an idea, it's about 5%, 5 to 6% of our total discipline referrals. So everything from skipping class to a major infraction, 5 to 6% involve an e-cig or a vape, and that was this comparable to the last 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
So not a big deterrent, but it did help, I guess.
Okay.
It didn't go up dramatically.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate that.
Of course.
All right. Our next item is the 2024-2025, excuse me, I'm reading the wrong one. No, it is. 24-25 Employee Handbook. I didn't trust my scratching out of that previous line, so. Ms. Landrum, welcome.
Thank you. So this is the information regarding our annual update to the employee handbook. And just as a reminder, Lake Dallas ISD uses the TASB model handbook as the template for our annual employee handbook. Like John said, since it was not a legislative year, there's not very many changes that were made to our current handbook. As a note, Title IX updates are not included in this version of the employee handbook due to legal challenges. And as a reminder, this is a working document. So as edits, additions, and changes are made, we'll update and post the updated version on the district website. So here are the changes other than pure editorial changes that were made. Firstly, inclusion of administrative regulations where applicable. For example, on page 14 under certification and licenses. And as a note, we're currently working on creating administrative regulations that will help drive our processes and align them to board policy. So as these are developed, we will add a reference to the administrative regulation topic, to the corresponding topic in the handbook. Also, an inclusion of LDISD compensation manual blackout days calendar reference is made on, for example, page 27 under discretionary leave. We added the topic payment for accumulated leave upon retirement on page 39, which is a result of the change to DEC local that you all approved. We added a staff transfer request form that's mentioned on page 16, and also the form is actually included in the appendix. And this is a result of us formalizing our transfer request process for staff members. We expanded the topic tobacco products and e-cigarettes to include use of any nicotine products. That's on page 57 in the employee handbook. And we added instructions for employees to review their pay statements for accuracy in the topic paychecks, and added an explanation of overpayments and the repayment process to payroll deductions overpayments on page 21. So again, since it wasn't a legislative year, there wasn't very many changes. Any questions?
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions from the board? You're in luck.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. And now, our next item is our budget presentation. So, Mr. Eversole, how you doing?
Wonderful, Mr. Stacy. Wonderful.
Did you come armed with a PowerPoint by chance?
By chance, I did.
Does it include spreadsheets?
One or two?
Okay. All right. It's all yours.
President Stacy, good evening. Board, good evening. Dr. Brown, good evening as well. So I'm really excited, right? We're kind of getting to the end of our budget cycle. Tonight is we'll be reviewing a budget update concerning the general fund. On our budget calendar, the appraisal district's required to certify our tax values by July 25th. Well, we got them bright and early this morning. And so we'll be talking a little bit about those certified values during this evening's presentation. And then our next board meeting is scheduled for August 12th. We'll be reviewing federal programs, final budget updates. We'll be also reviewing the debt service fund and the food service fund. So just a point of reference, the board is required to approve the general fund, the debt service fund, and the food service fund on or before the end of August. And so we have that meeting scheduled for August 26th. Where we're going to have our public hearing, and we'll ask the board to adopt both the budget and the tax rate. Okay, these next two slides I included in each one of our board budget presentations, but it's important. The Foundation School Program follows the student, so we get paid for each student that walks in the front door each and every day. Also, district characteristics, student characteristics, the number of students in attendance, again, referencing the number of kids that walk in our front door each and every day. Also, a component is the number of students enrolled and the number of full-time equivalent students, or FTE. Key finance point, our basic allotment, which is the allotment that our funding system is based on for school districts here in Texas, is $6,160 per student. And then it's weighted over and beyond that, depending on the characteristic of the student. That level hasn't changed since 2019. And we've had many rule changes, regulation changes, mandates, inflation. That basic allotment has not changed since 2019. We're like every other school district in Texas. We follow the same rules and regulations on that basic allotment. So schools are kind of in the same predicament. TEA calculates what's called the state maximum compressed tax rate. We're going to talk about it a little bit here in a few slides. And again, higher property values doesn't mean that we generate additional funds for the general revenue, or the general fund. So taxable values, again, we got this morning. Our taxable values came in at $2.967 billion. And so that's approximately a 7% increase from where we were last year. That $2.775 billion was based on $100,000 homestead exemption that wasn't approved by the voters at the time we adopted our budget. And so there was some calculations that had to be done after that election, and so that got revised a little bit, but as that was technically our certified value at $2.775 billion. Okay, so our general fund, our fund balance, again, fund balance is used for cash management, ongoing support of educational programs, one-time expenditures. Our reserves ended up at the end of last fiscal year at $13.6 million. TEA kind of has a baseline of 25% of annual expenditures, which came in at $10.4 million. So we do have some reserves. They're not excess at all, but we do have reserves that we can use for those ongoing support of education programs and one-time expenditures. So the general fund revenue, this has changed a little bit since the last time we talked, but now first of all, we got the certified values this morning, okay? So the numbers that are reflected here are not, we didn't use the certified values as we got them this morning, right? So next time we meet, we're going to be revising these numbers. The local revenue will change because the tax revenue will change based on the certified values, and the state revenue will change because that's a component of our funding is the certified values. And so, but as it stands right now, we are looking at a local revenue component. Before we've made that calculation of 24 million. We're looking at a state revenue component of 17 million. Now, under local, that includes interest. That includes our tax revenue. It also includes earned interest. Interest rates have decreased a little bit since this time last year, and so we're projecting a little bit less interest revenue. And then athletic revenue, we're holding the same as it was last year. As far as state goes, again, that's a component of the number of students and the characteristics of the students. We're estimating at a little over 17 million. Federal revenue, we're estimating a decrease down to $641,000. This is primarily due to the SHARS component. We've talked about SHARS before. There were some procedures, some rules and regulations that changed from the federal government, and so the amount of SHARS that districts receive has been decreased, and so we've decreased that amount. We've decreased the SHARS amount. We also have indirect costs, which is a component of overhead. And this is primarily due to the fact that our ESSER funds are running out. We'll make our last expenditure through the ESSER funds in September, and then those ESSER funds will no longer be available to us. An overhead component that we're able to transfer into the general fund is called indirect costs, so we're reducing that that estimate as well. And so, so we're looking at a revenue component right now of 41.7 million. This will change as we continue to go through the process, but where we stand right now is 41.7 million. And then under non-payroll expenditures, this is a function level component. Again, we will be reviewing this several more times. But this is kind of where we are right now. There hasn't been too many dramatic changes since we've talked about it last time. Student transportation is increasing based on fuel and based on the repairs, the cost of repairs to our buses, the maintenance of our buses. General administration, we see an increase there. We've seen an increase in legal fees. We've seen increase in travel expenses. Our communication piece that Dr. O'Sullivan talked about. Parent Square is included in this. POSIP and Upbeat as well is included in this component. The Falcon Insider, there's a new program that was started that's included in this function. Our Teacher Employee of the Month is also included in this function. Plant maintenance and operation. We've got several cost increases in plant maintenance operation, one of which is the cost of just maintaining our buildings. The cost of maintaining our buildings is going up. When we go out and buy materials, when we've got to need to go out and buy HVAC unit replacements, those are all increasing. We've also seeing some increased utility costs, so that's a component of this function. But the biggest increase is our property insurance, and so this is something that's affecting most every school district in the state right now, and probably in the nation. It's a very hard market right now. We've talked about this before. There's severe and unpredictable weather. We live in a very hail-prone area. We've replaced, I think, 4 out of 5 of our roofs in the past 5 or 6 years, because of hail. And so our claims have been a little bit high. Our insurance is based on replacement costs, so our total insured values have increased because the cost to replace those buildings have increased. And so we're budgeting, we're increasing our amount from $367,000 to $572,000. So there's an increase of $205,000 just to insure our buildings, and so that's a substantial increase. And then we get to security monitoring services. We see an increase of $252,000. We've talked about this before. That includes the cost of 5 student resource officers, which includes the contracts we have for the City of Corinth and Lake Dallas, and then some upfront cost associated with the process of forming a police department. So that's included in this line item as well. And then the last line, other governmental charges, that's really the cost that we pay Denton Central Appraisal District. And we're seeing some increased costs based on the increased proposed budget that DCAT has. And so we're estimating that cost will be around $307,000 to appraise each one of our properties. So our general fund expenditures, I've listed those non-payroll expenditures. We've just talked about that. The payroll expenditures, we have not changed this amount since last time we talked. We're getting through the end of our hiring process, and so we're in the process of revising that payroll estimate. And so the next time we come to the board in August, we will have a more up-to-date number to see where that comes in. But right now we're projecting a $308,000 decrease. And so overall, we're looking at a total expenditure budget of $42.3 million, and that's kind of where we are there. And then to tie it in with the revenues, we're estimating, as we stand right now, and this is going to change, probably both the expenditures and revenues will change, but as it stands right now, we're looking at $41.7 million in revenue, $42.3 million in expenditures, and a deficit of about a little over $600,000. And then child nutrition. The district has applied for and received the community eligibility provision, the acceptance of a community eligibility provision. And so that allows all of our elementary students to eat for free next year for both breakfast and lunch. And so as long as we meet a certain threshold, which we met by the standards of TDA, Texas Department of Agriculture, we did get this provision approved. And so so we are proposing, going into this next school year, allowing each elementary student to eat for free. The reimbursement costs are higher under this provision, and so we should be made whole by the federal government. And then the secondary prices will remain the same, both at the high school and the middle school. And so we're proposing a $2 rate for each breakfast and a lunch at $3.35. And then concerning our debt service, we're going to be reviewing this in a little more depth next meeting because this needs to be based on certified values. And so, but we are seeing increased property values. We're looking at about a 7% increase. And so increased property values provide additional opportunities to retire debt. And so the board has approved this for many years, for several years. And what this does is by retiring debt early, it increases the debt capacity, number one, but it decreases the taxpayer burden long term. And so since 2012, we've either refinanced or prepaid debt, defeased debt, in approximately around $30 million in interest and principal savings. And so that's a direct savings to the taxpayer. And so we'll be talking about defeasance of debt at the next meeting, and that will be based on maintaining our current tax rate for the INS portion at 50 cents. And so, so this is our tax rate. Again, this is going to be calculated by TEA based on our certified value. So we haven't gone through that process yet, but we feel like last year we were compressed at the lowest rate permissible by education code. And so our M&O rate last year was 75 cents. 75.75 cents. This year, it looks like we're going to be compressed to 75.72 cents. So essentially the same, okay, because we are at the floor. And so we're not going to really change, we're not going to really see any material difference with the tax rate. So I just rounded it at a $1.26, but it's really 125.75 to 125.72. So 0.03 of a cent is the difference in the tax rate. Okay, so again, we'll be coming back to the board during August 12th to give us the final updates on these particular funds. And then we plan to come back 2 weeks later and have our public meeting and adopt a budget and tax rate. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. Have any questions from the board? None on that item.
Okay.
All right. Move to our last information item, which is a construction report. Mr. Eversole, it's all yours.
Okay, sounds great. So this is our construction schedule. Our construction schedule hasn't changed since the last time we talked. And so the day after school started is when we started moving out of the band hall and choir hall, or choir room. And we've been under construction, obviously, all summer long. We still are scheduled to finish the renovation of the fine arts, the band hall and the choir room here within the next couple weeks. And so our plan as it stands right now, we've got a fair amount of stuff that we need to do, several inspections, but our hope is that we're able to move band and choir back to their space here in a couple weeks, maybe hopefully 2 weeks from this weekend, if all works well. So we're on schedule there. And then we also plan to finalize and complete the tennis courts. If you've been out there, I've got some pictures, but we plan to finish the tennis courts around sometime in November. And then we hope to complete the Career and Tech building really before school lets out. Our plan is to move those teachers from their existing space into the Career and Tech new building, and then the whole construction process, both phase 1 and phase 2, is scheduled to be complete sometime August of '25. And so again, the board's seen this many times, but this is just kind of a feel for what's going on in phase 1 and phase 2, part 1 and part 2. So those are the pictures we shared with you last board meeting about a month or so ago, 5 weeks or so ago, and then this is what it looks like yesterday. And so on the right, you can see that's the band hall component to the right. On the left, that is the new space for choir. We've got some built-ins on the left-hand side that are being installed. That's just another picture of the band area coming from the band, looking into the hallway. That is on the left a picture of the choir office space, and then we've got some sound rooms that we're installing. We're actually installing 6 in the band area and 2 in the choir area. So those are installed as it stands right now. And then on the left is a picture of the new fire lane. Our hope is to pour the fire lane this week and be ready for really convocation is our next time frame that we're going to have a lot of cars that we're hoping to get the back of the building ready for convocation. And then on the right-hand side, upper right-hand side is the new tennis courts. So those are the new lights that have been stood up for the new tennis courts, and so they continue to do the dirt work and hopefully start the framing of the concrete here relatively soon. And on the left, kind of the middle area, they've started the dirt work on the new Career and Tech building, and so you can kind of barely see the tennis courts to the right. We took out, I guess, 3 tennis courts, and those tennis courts will remain until we open up the new tennis facility, hopefully in November. And Jennifer Workman's here from VLK again, and so we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments? Oh, come on, you psyched me out on that one. Yeah. All right. Pulled his microphone down. All right. Thanks, sir. Our next item is the consent agenda. The consent agenda those items are those items that can be handled in one motion and vote. Is there any questions or comments regarding the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion on consent. Motion to approve by Mr. Appleby.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Smith. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of approval, please indicate. And that passes unanimous. Thank you. Our next items are action items, the first of which is consideration approval of TASB delegate. Dr. Brown.
Yes, sir. You have a packet, a handout in your packet. There's one person that submitted from Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD, Stephen Newcomb. And so the board, there's one of the attachments you have is for the TASB endorsement form. So if you make a motion to endorse Mr. Newcomb, and then that passes, then this will be submitted to TASB that the board is endorsing this candidate. There's only one, so typically if you have more than one, you would pick one to endorse, but every board has the opportunity to still participate in the same process even if there is only one candidate.
Okay. Any questions or comments? I will entertain a motion then. Stephen Newcomb? Okay. A motion by Mr. Tucker. Forgot him for a second. Guessing our our vote for Stephen Newcomb. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Collier. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of approval, please indicate. And that is unanimous. Thank you. Our next item is consideration approval of Lake Dallas ISD District and Campus Improvement Plans. And I'm not going to mention the typo on my sheet here, Dr. O'Sullivan. We'll talk about it later. I got somebody to rib in here somewhere.
Okay. All right. Good evening again. The improvement process for campus in the district, it's a collaborative process and it's a needs-based process. And it actually begins before the end of the previous school year. For example, the committees meet, the district committee and the campus committees meet throughout the year, even as recently as this summer. We sent out the call to come in and meet, and our stakeholders, our community, our parents, our staff came and worked on the campus and the district improvement plans. This evening, campus principals will present goals from their district improvement plans and how these align and come to life with their goals and strategies on each campus. And we keep in mind that these plans are living documents, and we say that because as needs arise and needs change throughout the year and data comes in, we go back and we adjust and we go through our committees to do that. The district and campus improvement plans align with the district's 4 priorities from the strategic plan. This evening, priorities 1, 2, and 3, the student success piece, the faculty and staff engagement, and the parent, family, and community support are going to be presented through the improvement plan process. And next month, priority 4, efficient operations, will be presented. At this time, Jennifer Bryant, principal of Shady Shores Elementary, will present district and campus goals and strategies.
Thank you. Good evening, President Stacy, Dr. Brown, Board of Trustees. I will be sharing the first part of the Priority 1 student success. So 2 of the goals on the district improvement plan are: by May 2025, Lake Dallas ISD students will increase achievement in math and reading by 5%. And the second one is by May 2025, the percentage of emergent bilingual students who advance at least 1 proficiency level as measured by the 2024 TELPAS will increase by 5%. And aligned to the district plan are the Shady Shores Elementary goals that include: by May 2025, SSE students will increase achievement in math, reading, and we also added science, by 5%. And by May 2025, the percentage of emergent bilingual students who advance at least 1 proficiency level as measured by 2024 TELPAS will increase by 5%. And so just a few of the strategies that we'll be using to help reach this goal. The first one is our PLC teams, our professional learning communities, will meet bi-weekly and clarify the essential learning and build shared knowledge for each unit to create a guaranteed and viable curriculum for all SSE students. So you'll see some pictures of some of our students in their learning. And then the second one is that each grade level PLC team will utilize common formative assessments and summative assessments to routinely monitor students' mastery of the TEKS in the areas of reading, math, and science. And then over to the right, you'll see we all know that early education is important. And so SSE, along with CE and LDE, will offer full-day pre-kindergarten. So you'll see some of our pre-kindergarten students learning to the right. And then a few other strategies that will help us reach our goals is that we will have a literacy specialist. On the left, you'll see her working with some students. She will provide targeted intervention and literacy support for students in grades K through 5. And then over to the right, you'll see our ESL specialist who will be providing targeted language acquisition support to help our emergent bilingual students. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Avellino, who's going to continue with Priority 1.
Good evening. Thank you. So to continue on with the great work that Ms. Bryant began, Lake Dallas High School does also have goals and strategies under Priority 1 for student success. I know the board has engaged in multiple conversations about career and tech and CCMR and how that affects accountability. So a key component for us is that by May 2025, LDHS will ensure that 90% of the class of 2025 will meet CCMR criteria. We've made significant progress this year with the class of 2024, and so we will continue on track with the help of our C&I partners. LDHS will also be implementing a freshman initiative to focus on the following goals of increasing attendance, reducing course failure rate, and reducing major discipline referrals that end up in those big consequences. Research continues to show what we all know is true, and that freshman year is critical in order for us to keep students on the path to graduating on time and not being behind in credit retention. We've made substantial progress in the rebound after COVID, and so we've made dramatic improvement there, and we just want to make sure that that remains our focus, that we don't relax on that progress. And so bringing back some graphics that you've seen before, on the left-hand side of the screen, we'll update that great grades, great attendance, great behavior logo for this year. The kids have seemed to really respond well to this. So year 4, another design, but we approach that with them. You only have to do 3 things to be a successful student at Lake Dallas High School, and those are the 3. On the far right-hand side, we'll keep that positive behavior approach where we're talking to them and still not assuming that just because you're in high school, you know how to behave in all areas of high school. So we'll still continue training our students and reminding them what appropriate behaviors are in each area. And then right there in the dead center, because we know a key component is that social, emotional, and mental health approach, we've still made it super easy for our students to be able to access our counselors. So multiple places across campus, in the newsletter, in teachers' classrooms, there's just a QR code. So it's a very private process. If you need to see your counselor, you can just zap that, get your name on the list. And so we've made it really, really easy, so we'll continue that. Don't scan it now because I don't think it's live. But that will be up and ready before the first day of school. And we will continue to implement service learning opportunities for students. We have our student organizations track hours spent in their service learning opportunities, and sponsors will set targeted goals based on their individual group. So Spanish Club may have a completely different goal than Student Council because the fundamental foundations of those groups are completely different. We wanted to continually remind our students that part of their success isn't just in the classroom, it's taking what they are learning in the classroom and in those student groups and extending it back into the community and understanding how they as a teenager still affect and influence what's going on in the community around them. So just giving back at home is important to us. And then just some examples of that we've had, in the year past. We do have Starts with Hello Week that is a combination of student council and the counseling office. So we'll have activities where we're engaging kids at the door when they come in, or greeting them with different student groups that they might not be a part of, and just getting them to contact or interact with a group that's not familiar to them. We do routine trash pickup in the city parks and other locations. And then, of course, you guys know our annual food drive is extremely competitive at the high school. And so I think we accumulated just over 5,000 canned food items this last year to donate back to the Lake City's Food Bank. So we're exceptionally proud of our campus and our students for being able to do that. And now I'll pass it off to Dr. Johnson for Priority 2.
Good evening. Priority 2, faculty and staff engagement, retention, and recruitment states that LDISD will actively recruit qualified and passionate individuals to serve students in the district throughout the 2024-2025 school year to fill vacancies and prepare for the 2024-2025 school year. LDISD will also increase the percent of staff retained for the 2024-2025 school year. So what does this look like for LDMS? We have set our goal to retain 90% of all campus professionals for the year. We are looking to utilize mentor teachers within our own building to support those that are new to campus, communicate in a timely and accurate manner, and develop a recognition and reward system across the campus and social media. In the 23-24 academic year, we implemented these strategies through the use of the Teacher and Employee of the Month program, 3-cheer system where teachers were shouting out their fellow teachers each week in the Friday daily reminder, weekly newsletters where staff and students were highlighted, and supported new teachers with content and grade level mentors. For the 24-25 academic year, LDMS will implement a house system modeled off of the Ron Clark Academy, focused on building a positive educational and relational community, promoting a sense of competition, and centering the work on the student engagement and academic excellence. On social media, we will start chronicling our journey to build a positive school culture with the hashtag 4 Houses, 1 Falcon Family. Ultimately, our goal is for our teachers to feel valued and have a sense of belonging where they want to continue to be at LDMS. So just like last year, our 3 cheers, and again, one of the awesome things was hearing the buzz through the building from our teachers saying, I got a shout out from blah, 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 blah. So that was super awesome to hear them. And of course, I try to make sure that we get a photo up of any of our individuals that won either the Employee of the Month or the Student of the Month. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Jessica Bovan. She's going to continue with the work in Priority 2.
Good evening, President Stacy and Board of Trustees and Dr. Brown. So I'm going to continue Priority 2, focusing on professional development and celebrations. So for the district, the goal is LDISD faculty and staff will have the opportunity to contribute to the continuous improvement process through surveys, committees, PLCs, and professional development from August 2024 through May 2025. As well as for the 2024-25 school year, LDISD will implement a district plan for professional development for all staff. So what that will look like at CE, we will utilize our campus walkthrough and our observation data to provide intentional and really specific professional development to our staff based on their strengths and weaknesses. At the end of the year, the previous school year, we actually surveyed staff to get input on what they believed would be beneficial for our whole staff to receive for professional development, which they wanted to prioritize parent and family engagement, which I really love. We want parents back on campus, and then also dealing with big behaviors, which is also a priority as well. So those are 2 of the ones that we'll focus on, in addition to specific professional development based on walkthrough and observation data. Also, we're going to have what we call learning walks. We had learning walks this last year where teachers can go in other teachers' classrooms to learn from them, because we really believe we have the best teachers, and so we should learn from each other. We're going to tweak how we do it a little bit this year just so that it's more beneficial and less of a compliance, but really they're getting more out of it and they have more time to do it. So we're going to work on making that more efficient this year. For Lake Dallas ISD with celebrations, LD ISD will hold celebrations monthly to recognize teachers and staff from August 2024 through May 2025. Dr. Brown will celebrate staff members' birthdays with brownie deliveries. One of my favorite days. She always brings one for administrators. And Employee and Teacher of the Month, end of the year, are celebrated with staff in the community. So at CD, we love to celebrate our staff. Some of the ways that we will be celebrating our staff, recognizing them in the staff newsletter. We did that this year. I have a picture on the next slide that just shows one of the ways we recognize them. They're nominated by other staff on campus and kind of given a shout out in our newsletter. Also at CE, we have like a rose ceremony at the beginning of the first staff meeting of each month. If you're ever free at 3:30, the second or fourth Monday, you should come because it's so really neat. This was done way before I was at CE, but literally we get roses and staff walks in, grabs a rose, and then anyone that's done something kind for them, they stand up and they're like, I'd like to give you a rose for this. And it's just really, really a special time and a really special way to celebrate staff. So I'm glad we've been able to continue that. Also, we reward staff with certificates or Sonic drinks or jeans passes through our PBIS reward system, which is actually the same system that we use for our students to reward our students. But staff members can give each other points or give each other compliments through there, and they earn points to buy things from campus administrators. So that's really fun. And also this year we're going to be doing these positive affirmation posters where staff is able to submit words that describe other staff members, and then we're going to make it into a Wordle. I hope none of the staff at CE are watching because it's a surprise, but we love Wordles, and so it's going to be a Wordle with all the words that they've been described as, and so we're really, really excited about that. Here's a picture of just one of our spotlights. So last year our theme was Barbie and Ken, so it was the CE Dream House, and so this is just one of our spotlights in the newsletter. This staff member was nominated, and those are some of the things that other staff members said about her, and so it was just put in the newsletter. So it was really fun to see who would be in the newsletter each week. And up next, we have Carrie Blevins, principal of LDE. She's going to share priority 3, which is parent and family engagement and community support.
Good evening. Under priority 3, parent and family community support, these are our district goals. LDISD will engage in ongoing communication with parents and community during the 24-25 school year. LDISD will increase engagement and learning opportunities for parents and community through campus and district events. At Lake Dallas Elementary, we will support priority 3 with these goals. By May of 2025, LDE will increase engagement participation in parent and community communication during the 24 and 25 school year by 5%. By May of 25, LDE will increase the measurable results assessment, or the MRA, percentage in family and community engagement by 5%. And the MRA, the measurable results assessment, is a survey that's given to our students, our staff, and our parents in the spring, and it's part of our Leader in Me program that measures many different components, including that family and community engagement piece. And so I'd like to share a few of the strategies that help us support that goal of parent and community communication at Lake Dallas Elementary. And so we will continue to share bi-monthly campus newsletters with our families. And so you can see on the screen, we've got a picture on the top right of our newsletters that go home. And so we send those out in email and text. It will also continue to utilize our social media, a minimum of twice a week, to our families. And so you can see a sample up there of where we were celebrating a leadership assembly. And so we highlight campus activities and also showcase our learning. And then we'll also send out our POSIP surveys. And so we send those out once a month to gather feedback from our community and our parents. And so it's a great way to keep that communication going. Oh, and that bottom picture, that is some of our feedback that we receive from parents through POSIP. And so we love that feedback. And then to support our goal of increased family and community engagement as measured by the spring MRA, we're going to continue to host family learning nights in the spring and the fall. And so that top picture is from a fall night where we did a STEAM night where we partnered with our PTA. And so you can see some of our pre-K students building giant bubbles. So that was a really fun night. We'll continue to have music performances. Each grade level will do a music performance in an open house, and during that open house we invite our parents to come back to the classrooms, and our students present their leadership notebooks, and it's a great time for families to see what they're learning in the classroom. We also want to increase our participation of watchdogs. You can see on the screen we've got a picture of our kindergarten dad who was a watchdog this year. And then also we'll continue our partnership with the Rotary Club. And so that last picture down there on the bottom is when Rotary Club came out, met with our third graders, passed out those dictionaries. And then the bottom right, that's one of our kindergarten programs as well. All right, are there any questions?
Thank you. Do you have any questions or comments from the board? No, ma'am, we don't. Thank you. Do I have any other questions? Anybody for me? No? Okay, good. With that in mind, I will entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Motion from Mr. Smith for approval. Do I have a second? Oh, Mr. Bartley. Thank you for that second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of approval, please indicate. And that is unanimous, passing. Thank you. Move on to our calendar announcements and information items. And Dr. Brown, upcoming meetings and events.
Lots of things coming up. Two things of interest particularly is all of our teachers and campus staff return for convocation. They come in on the 5th, but we have convocation on Wednesday of that week on the 7th. And the Lake Cities Chamber is hosting the Adopt a Teacher presentation. It's going to be a lunch this year instead of a breakfast. And so that date and time is there for you also. And then our next board meeting that you guys always look forward to is August the 12th.
All right. Appreciate it, Dr. Brown. That concludes our business for the evening. It is 7:40 and we are adjourned. Thank you.